On this episode of Sips and Clips, we sit down with post-production legend Bill Daly, former Senior Vice President of Post-Production at Warner Brothers Pictures. We cover a wild range of stories, from sharing a college campus with Pope Leo, to guarding the ABC lot as a security guard, to his analysis of a lost and found Wizard of Oz cost summary. We dive into revolutionary post-budget spreadsheets, Bill's front row seat to the infamous Philosopher's Stone title debacle, and the timeless difference between pigs and hogs. Oh, and of course, how the post industry has transformed over the years and where it's heading next. Buckle up, this one's a ride. Here's part 2 of our interview with Bill Daly.
When the first book came out, my wife was pregnant and we were in England. And so people we visited were all saying, "Oh, do you have a nursery? Do you have this? Do you have any children's books?" And we were recommended this Harry Potter book. And I didn't know what it was. And, well, what is it? Well, it's this young boy who's an orphan. And obviously she hadn't read it. This young boy who's an orphan and he goes away to school and he solves a mystery. Okay, nothing about magic or anything. And I'm thinking Hardy Boys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then, so I bought the book. I was over there. I have an English. So I have English versions of all the books because I didn't need an editor to tell me that trainers are sneakers and that
Philosopher's Stone versus Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah, that too.
And all
well,
that.
I didn't realize that at first. I had the book, Philosopher's Stone. We're watching dailies. So years had gone by. I bought that book in 1997. Okay, that thing went into production in late 2000, early 2001.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I mean, it came out
not too much longer
6
later.
or 7 weeks after 9/11.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're in dailies, and I'm sitting there with my boss, and the kids come in and they say, "Where's Professor Dumbledore?" Well, he's not here. McGonagall, he's not here. He's off the campus or whatever, But we need to talk to him. It's urgent. It's about, and they say the Sorcerer's Stone. And I practically stood up in dailies. That's wrong.
Yeah.
I have the book right here.
Yeah.
I didn't have the book right there, but my boss is like, what do you,
Right.
She took me into her office and showed me her book. I had no idea
That it was called the Sorcerer's Stone. That's so funny.
So speaking of, I still want to talk about what your process is through pre-production, production, and post as an SVP.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about.
So when everything is in pending,
we read the script and we give the notes and all that stuff, and then it moves out of pending into pre-production.
Yeah.
Now the pre-production process is only about 6 weeks or so.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Well, by then a lot of groundwork. They know who the director is. They're not going out.
Development has been done. It's just
they're not going out to the director. The director knows if you're going to be directing a movie at Warner Brothers, you have a DP who does all your stuff. Nowadays, it's less important to be in touch with me. And I don't just mean me personally, but the post-production executives have slowly eroded. Because the technology changed. There was a time when I could actually hire like post-production supervisors. And it got to where we couldn't because the directors suddenly wanted their assistant to do it. Yeah. And it took a long time to get a post-production supervisor even assigned to a show. And Mark would say, he would call up, like Ivan Reitman's editor, Shelley Kahn. He'd call him up, "Shelley, I mean, seriously, do you want to be writing POs? Do you want to be going and booking all the ADR stuff? I mean, yeah, you can have one of your assistants do that, but don't they have other things to do?" This guy or girl, she's, you wait and see. She's on your team. Yeah. She's not a spy for us. They all thought we were putting spies in there.
Yeah.
It's like there's no secrets anywhere. We don't need spies. But, post-production begins with pre-production because we'll have a first assistant editor on who's going to make sure the cutting room is set up.
Right,
Then the editor might come on the first day, maybe the second day, or maybe a week before, but they come in and everything has been set up. And the first assistant is usually someone they bring in, someone they trust.
Right.
And there might be an apprentice assigned as well to do the shit that the first
doesn't want to do.
Assistant doesn't want to do,
So what's your role in all of this? What are you doing now?
Usually it's answering questions, and it won't be me personally. I was actually doing a lot of that when I was in the budgeting department.
So you're not managing this stuff directly. You've got people, you've got post-production supervisors who are.
We do now, but in the days when I was a production accountant.
Oh, you didn't.
My assistant and I were doing it along with Jan and Fred.
But as an SVP, what are you doing during pre-production?
I'm mostly fielding the problems that come to me, and they were numerous. They were numerous and constant. They were never ending.
Who are those problems coming from?
They were coming from the executives that worked for me.
Not the first. I was like, the first isn't sending you email being like, my Avid license doesn't work.
You know what? Unless they had previous experience with me, they didn't know who you were. They didn't want to come to my office. No, they were.
That was my thought. Like, if I'm going, I think I've been on an email chain with an SVP of Post like one or two times, and it's always not a good time. It's not like I'm going there. We normally just chat with our post-production supervisor.
If you came to my office and you weren't a dick, then you would have walked out with a big smile on your face. And I was charming and funny and everything, but I also didn't hesitate to call you an asshole. Yeah, and I would do it to your face. I mean, I never stabbed anybody in the back. Yeah, I was upfront with everything, and even my executives. It was very clear that I had expectations
of what you wanted them to do.
You know.
So are you kind of then in that role then for production when the film is in production and post production? They just come to you when there's issues, or does your role kind of change?
Well, the thing is that.
And can you walk us through one of these? Like, give us a mock example. What's an issue that somebody would have come to you about?
It's usually about overtime. We need to work over. We need to do this or that. It always had to be approved, and we had these like 6-page deal memos. They had all kinds of stuff in there.
You're dealing with like high level political problems and like expensive overtime, and they're trying to.
Or how do we do this? Or the Avid. That happened a lot of times. Well, the Avid would crash. And then we would call whoever the vendor was who rented it. The worst was when somebody wanted to do Final Cut Pro. Nobody ever did Final Cut Pro from beginning to end.
Wow.
I remember getting a phone call. The call was made to somebody else. And then it came to one of my execs and came to me. Mm-hmm. And I would ask the obvious question as if I didn't know, just to pinpoint the problem. I would say, did you call Avid? And usually I would get a call from the producer in this case.
Oh my gosh.
Did you call Avid? No, they're on Final Cut Pro. We decided to do Final Cut Pro for the budget. And I said, well, that's on your editor. He put the system together. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We always insist on using Avid because we are buying a system and they stand by it and they will repair it. Final Cut Pro is because the editor put a printer and a laptop and a little sound mixer and a little color thing together and it all fits on the desk and that's what they wanted to work on. Yeah. Your editor needs to fix it. It's his system. How do I explain to somebody what the problem is? And you're coming to me and you can't even explain fully to me what the problem is, except that it's not working.
Right.
And every time we had Final Cut Pro.
I'm just curious, were you dealing with problems like if somebody on set was like, we tried to rig this explosion and it didn't work and we lost the shooting days, we're going to do it in post. And so you would get a call. I'm just presuming.
What would it cost? I would get a call from the production. Kind of what I'm
asking.
I would get a call from the production exec.
What would it cost to do this in post?
But we could see from dailies if there was a problem.
Oh, I'm curious. So are you watching dailies and being like, that was shot wrong? You're trying to do this visual effect and that was shot wrong.
I don't do that myself because.
But you could catch up on something was off.
Well, we would see like when we burned down the city of Silverado on the Wild Wild West. Mm-hmm. We saw it burn. That was a problem.
What do you mean? Like
it burned down, an explosion. The special effects people on the set. Yeah. It was the town where it's in New Mexico and it's called Silverado. They did the movie Silverado there. It's out in the desert. It's all wood. It's all dried out. Yeah. It's kindling because of the heat.
Oh my God.
The sun. A big explosion on the left side of the screen. Bigger than what anybody had planned for. And I'm guessing somebody along the way who didn't take responsibility wanted the explosion bigger. And it
burned down a town?
It sent embers everywhere. And the town caught fire and quickly burned down.
Oh my God.
All on a 10-minute load in the camera.
Jesus Christ.
You know?
And it wasn't supposed to burn down.
No, it wasn't supposed to catch fire. It was just an explosion.
It was just supposed to be an explosion. Oh my God.
So we had the same thing in Australia on House of Wax. So we had 2 sets on House of Wax. We never saw the dailies on this, but I did see a video because I went down to Australia and the producer had it on his phone.
Oh my God.
That went up even faster than, and it was an interior set. Okay, the set and the building burned down in minutes.
Jesus Christ.
So these are the kinds of problems you're dealing with.
Well, not every day. Not every day.
A lot of burning down buildings.
But these are
burning
extremes.
down the whole town.
These are the extremes that they fall on your desk. The extremes fall on your desk.
Well, they would bounce onto my desk. They would fall on somebody else's first. They bounce
onto
to you.
God.
And then they would bounce off mine too.
Yeah.
What would it cost? It's usually what would it cost to do this? What would it cost to do that? And then visual effects became a really big thing. Visual effects replaced matte paintings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now called set extensions.
Yep.
So visual effects is the big thing that they think will
solve all your problems.
Yeah.
How many of these calls are you getting about, can this be fixed in post, are you getting by productions that are in current production are in a crisis? And how many of these calls are from development they're working through stuff?
No, it's always stupid things. No, it's stupid things. It's never in crisis. A crisis is when you're racing to get the release date.
Yeah.
Crisis is when, like The Fugitive was in a constant state of crisis because they were chasing a release date. They greenlit that movie too late. And they expected it too early.
How many of those problems are logistical problems, and how many of those are like political problems that you're solving? And then to kind of dovetail onto that, I'm curious, you're in this weird position where you're both trying to be a champion of the filmmakers and trying to make the best movie possible, but you also work for a studio where, you got to make the studio happy. How do you find the balance in that? What can be sometimes a very harmonious marriage and sometimes a very discontent marriage.
It's all bullshit. We would get these lectures from our superiors about you have to keep the budgets down, you have to do this, and we can't afford this and that. And that goes all the way back to when I was at ABC, when I was a unit manager. I remember the head of our division coming in and saying, we have no control over the above the line. If they're going to hire Burt Reynolds, we have no control over that. We have to keep the below the line down, and we need to make all of our best efforts. And I didn't want to say this out loud. I probably would have got it fired, but it's like, we don't have Burt Reynolds in anything. I mean, our biggest star was Richard Dawson. I mean, for Christ's sake, but you couldn't say that. But we're here, and it was all. And I encountered that in 1978, all the way until I retired. The same bullshit. It's all bullshit. And then if we are holding the line on costs, and it usually has to do with overtime or working weekends, or we need this. Or that. We never missed a release date. We only ever came close twice, I think. But all of it was bullshit because they would complain. We would say no. They would complain to like the president of my division. He would call me and I'd say, these fucking guys are full of shit. They're doing that. And then it would get to Robinoff, and Robinoff would say, well, can't you just make this go away? And the thing is to let them do what they want to do. That's the thing. Even though Jeff is telling us, absolutely not.
Cut costs, do this.
But and then can't you just let, because he doesn't want to deal with it.
And you're talking about like the directors. Yeah. Like the directors would come to you and like want something.
Well, they would go to Mark Solomon before they came to me.
Oh, okay.
And all the people that were above me knew my MO. And it served everybody perfectly if they didn't come to me. Because I would have
told them no,
probably. But some of them I had really good relationships with, and you have to gauge what's reasonable and what's not reasonable. The big thing is what's going to get the project finished, and that was always my priority: getting the job done. Okay, it's enough to talk about the job, but you have to get it done.
So even if someone's coming with like something that might be over budget, if the president or whoever's above you is like, no, we really don't want to, but I also don't want to deal with it kind of thing.
They wouldn't even say no. They just say, I don't want to deal with it. Can't you just make it go away?
Oh, okay. So then you would kind of use your own discretion of like, is this reasonable?
Well, the thing is, the philosophy generally among the big studios, you don't have this in the independent world, but in the big studios, you're already 8 months pregnant when you get to post.
Okay. Yeah.
What are you going to do?
The movie is what it is.
Or it's less than what it is. We get, when you do reshoots, that was the thing that always bugged me, having to go back and do it in reshoots. And that became more and more of a thing. Like now they budget for reshoots. There was a philosophy when I got there, when it was Bob Daly and Terry Semmel who were running the studio. You budget what you know the thing will cost. And Lorenzo was like that. You budget what you know the thing will cost. You give it your best effort. You can't budget fixes. You can't anticipate
what you can't do.
That Heath Ledger's going to die. You can't anticipate that. That's not a specific example that we talked about, but that's one of the things. You can't. You can't anticipate burning down Silverado. You budget what you know. When something arises, then you calculate the best way out of it.
Okay.
And in the case of like Silverado, there was an insurance claim then, and the thing was, it was a good thing the cameras kept rolling because we had something to show the insurance company.
Right. Yeah.
To show what had happened.
And the same thing with House of Wax. And insurance is a big deal.
Are you involved in less combustible problems like a bad screening score?
Yes.
Like you've got a movie that's supposed to be scoring in the 80s and it's scoring in the 50s. Is that where you're stepping in as well?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Sounds like you got something good.
I have a lot of good things. So we did Troy, and I really like.
I like Troy.
I do like Troy.
Okay. So we were doing Troy. We did it in England. We did the Post in England. All the stage work was England and Malta, but the bulk of it was England. Plus, we had the Bushes started those wars in the Middle East, while all this is going on. Yeah. But we were supposed to shoot in Morocco. Or no, we were supposed to shoot in somewhere in the Middle East, the Siege of Troy, and we had to end up going to Mexico to do it. We did it in Los Cabos. We built the walls of Troy right on the beach on the Pacific Ocean side. And we had to import Bulgarian extras from Bulgaria, because the native population of Mexico doesn't look European.
Yeah.
So we had all these soldiers and stuff. And it was kind of funny. This had no direct effect on us, but it was funny. As production was slowing down there, more and more Bulgarians were disappearing
into Mexico?
Into the Mexican countryside.
Okay.
Where would you rather live?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
So you're involved in these screenings. Are you?
I was going to say Detroit.
Let me tell you what happened. Well, let me tell you what happened.
Okay.
This is the kind of thing that would happen. This is the thing that would be not the mistake part of this, but. So Wolfgang then scored at Abbey Road, and I think we had one of the music people there, maybe two. They were suddenly very silent when this became a problem. So they brought the film back here. Troy was riddled with problems, little technical things that were so stupid. I can't even fathom some of the stuff. We had to replace all the splices. They came to show it to us.
Yeah.
And they had to replace all the splices in the work picture.
Why?
Because something with the projector was
jittering. It was like jittery. It was like
all of it.
Bad.
Every single shot.
Oh my God.
So I had to hire like every assistant editor and apprentice I could think of to work on, and it was like 8 AB reels
just to fix a work print.
16 reel movie.
My God.
To replace all the splices.
Wow.
Jeez.
And we had a short amount of time to do it.
Yeah.
But we loved the movie. Everybody loved the movie. So we scored it at Abbey Road. Wolfgang brought it back, ran it in Screening Room 5 just for the crew. And he just ran it. And he wouldn't let anybody from Warner Brothers into the screening. It was at night. He ran it at night. And then the next day, we were all going to Sacramento to do a research screening with an audience. And it was fun. I mean, it was fun doing that. So we all go together. We've got the film with us in Goldberg's double system, Super 35. So it had to be matted. So they're pulling the aperture thing out and filing it down to get the right.
Oh my God.
The crop bars.
So Jane, so we're getting a car, and I'm at the rented car rental table. Okay, look at all this stuff we have. We had all this equipment. What should I get? Should I get an SUV or whatever? And then Jane says, I've never ridden in a Cadillac. So then I asked the guy, how big is the trunk in the Cadillac? I have a picture of us all standing with the Cadillac.
Oh my gosh.
So everything fit. We drove off to wherever the theater was in Sacramento. Rosedale is usually the place we go. We drive up there and we set it up, what we would do is we would platter the film, and then we'd do a complete run through.
Right.
Yep.
And then
and
if there's no problems, and if there's other than Daly's, first time I've seen an assembled thing.
Yeah.
So we're running it. Peter Honess was the editor, and Jonathan and Jane are sitting there, and then at some point we're not in the second reel yet. And believe me, those old film shows, I go back and I can look at it on HBO and I remember where the changeover marks are, even though you don't see them on HBO, you know. So Peter gets up and he's walking up and he's looking at the screen. He's kind of and this is film. He's trying to look at the grain pattern and stuff, because here we took it's Super 35, so it's been matted down to 2-perf, a 4-perf picture matted down to 2-perfs. So he's up there, and while he's away, I inch over to Jonathan and Jane and I say, "What do you think of the music?" That was a big problem for me, the music.
Yeah.
Because it felt and sounded like Ben-Hur, like it came from Ben-Hur.
Yeah.
That style from the 50s that they, like when the logo comes up, Troy, you know, and it was oh my God. So what do you think of that?
It just felt antiquated?
And I would say it was definitely old world stuff. So I asked them, and they're really non-committal, and all that. And then Peter comes back and I asked Peter, we had just gone into Reel 2. I asked Peter, "What do you think of the music?" He goes, "I think it sucks." Okay. That was enough for me.
Oh God, yeah.
I went to the men's room. I didn't want anyone to think I was out making a phone call. So I went to the men's. One of them did follow me to see where I was going. I went to the men's room. You always do that. If there's a fight in the theater, if there's anything in the theater, you always go to the men's room first, make it look like you're doing something else, and then you call the police or you call. So I go to the men's room. I'm washing my hands. Okay, how am I going to present this to Mark Solomon? And then, it's like, okay, I just got to do it. So I couldn't get a good enough signal and we're still in analog cell phones.
Oh, yeah.
I had to go outside and call. And I said, "Hey, Mark, I don't want to do any sort of predisposed negative thing on this movie, but I guarantee you that before the changeover to Reel 2, Jeff Robinoff is going to be up out of his seat and pacing because you come into the theaters and then
the hallway.
He's pacing that part of the theater that we don't see, the ramp that goes in.
Yeah.
Guarantee you he's going to be pacing there. We need to have a plan in place. This music is awful. We need to have a plan because he's going to look to us. Mm-hmm. We need to have a plan in place.
Yeah.
So he said, okay. So then he started to call the music people. And of course, they're like, "We were there. There was nothing wrong with it." It was terrible. And it's not, and I feel bad for the composer because it was the French guy, Alexander Desplat.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of that stuff was done. The decision to hire these people was because of the tax deal. We had to have Europeans doing this and that because we were getting this huge tax thing. Anyway, we finished the movie. There's no real technical problems. That's just the thing with the music. So I don't say anything to anybody. I've already talked to Mark. I don't say anything.
Right.
And then what we would do is we would hang around the theater.
So then when Troy scores badly, because of the music,
it scored badly, especially the music. All these notes on the music. And Wolfgang, God bless him, he was shaken. I mean, he was shaken. I'd never seen somebody so deflated, but because he thought it was wonderful,
Right.
But he's European, he's old world, he's a lot of things, but he's, and he's the right kind of filmmaker for that kind of movie because he's the traffic cop you need. Because sometimes you get a big movie like that and you need a traffic cop more than you need anything else.
Yeah, someone to just pace it out.
So then it was the first time we were using the internet for anything. We got James Horner to do a new score. He recorded it. There were a lot more scoring stages at the time. Right. In 2004. So James Horner wrote a new score. They recorded it. And then we were sending it over the internet to London to put into the final mix and everything. And we were chasing a date, not the release date, but we were chasing the Berlin Film Festival because Wolfgang, that was his big thing. He wanted the Berlin Film Festival.
I'm curious, is there a movie that you expected to have a good score and then you had to deal with the reality that it had a bad score or vice versa?
Yeah.
You were like, I thought this was going to be great.
Let me tell you, the Harry Potter movies never scored that well. And
you're kidding me.
Well, no, it's not because it had to do with visual effects because if we had a November release date, half of them were November, half of them were June or July. It took a long time for the visual effects, and a lot of times you're holding up reels. You're holding up the approval of reels because you're waiting for visual effects to come in. Specifically Quidditch, like in the first three. But they never scored well, and we did them all in Chicago. Chicago was for a lot of reasons. We wanted to do the Midwest because we wanted to make sure that Midwest kids could understand the accents of all the English kids at Hogwarts. So, and then Chris Columbus was from Chicago. It was a chance for him to go home, and he invited his family and his wife's family. We did 2 screenings of the first 2 or 3 movies. We do one primarily kids. There'd be adults with the kids and then ones with the adults. And inevitably, and I've seen this in every movie, not just Potter, not just really heavily laden visual effects, they would make an announcement that it's not a finished product. You're going to see some rough animation things here. Just know that when the movie comes out,
they'll be done.
And my brother came to one of them. He had a business trip and then met me in Chicago, and I said, come. So you make these announcements, and then when it was all over, my brother said, they're not putting it out like this, are they? I said, no. So even someone as intelligent as that, they don't get it. And it doesn't score well because they don't understand the visual effects and this and that. But you would think when we would make the announcement, it still gives me chills.
Yeah.
Because it was a blind screening. Nobody knew what they were coming to see. And they would say, you are the very first audience in the whole world to see Harry Potter. And you would think that 2 of the Beatles just walked into the room. It would shake. The building would shake with the cheers and the screams and all that. And
that's why I thought that must have just earned you so many brownie points in getting a good score. So you to tell me that you got bad scores. But I guess if you have bad visual effects.
They all knew the books. No, they all knew the books. A lot of the cards were people who were disappointed. Where's Peeves?
Yeah.
Right. They're comparing it to the books.
Yeah, and the books are 100 times better. But you have to do something. On the first 2 movies are so incredibly close to the books. And you got to give credit to Steve Kloves for narrowing a lot of the gaps, making it more cinematic. Incredibly good interpretive
mind for that.
Adaptation guys,
Well, speaking of Harry Potter, I know one of the bigger directors that worked on it was Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah.
I want to ask, and not just Harry Potter, obviously, but many of the other plethora of films you've worked on. Was it easier or harder to work with these big name directors, or was it easier to work with kind of the smaller name ones? Was there really a difference, or did it just kind of depend?
Every project takes on a life of its own. Big deal directors are very willful, and they generally get what they want, but they also generally give you a good movie. Not always, but they generally will give you a good movie. So my complaint about Alfonso is that he treated people badly.
But you've worked with Nolan and Scorsese and big time directors.
Marty and
Is it much different working with them than just smaller
directors? The difference is that you with those big name directors, you have an expectation that you're making a good movie.
Okay.
And you generally did. And then some of the ones who they compromised because they wanted to save money. There were a lot of when we started Warner Independent Pictures, we were going out to a lot of music video guys, because they had some sense of visual effects with the stuff they were doing with the music videos. And the idea was that they could move quickly, that they were guerrilla filmmakers and they could get it done. Didn't always work out. Because you pluck somebody like that out of music videos and suddenly they think they're making their big score.
Okay, yeah.
So they would go all out as opposed to be scrappy.
They thought suddenly, oh man, I'm now I can order that crane that I could never have before.
Yeah.
That's sort of stupid little things like that.
And then kind of dovetailing off of that, do you find there's then a difference between working on bigger films and smaller ones? Do you feel like there's any more pressure, or it's relatively the same?
It's just the numbers that are different and the logistics. The really big movies generally have responsible filmmakers who can bring it in.
As they know
Richard Donner
what's
could do
happening.
anything, people like that. And then some of the smaller ones, you never quite know, But the thing is, we were good up until late in my tenure. We were really good about making movies for a specific audience instead of one menu for everybody. So they weren't afraid to make. We did Grumpy Old Men and wrestling Ernest Hemingway. And the thought was that we'll spend less on these movies because there's only a small audience. We have this older population that already has a movie-going habit, and they are underserved because nobody's making movies for them. So that was the idea. Grumpy Old Men ended up having this really broad appeal because Lemon and Matthau were so funny in it, you know. But the Wrestling Ernest Hemingway was sort of a prestige picture in some ways. Randa Haynes directed it. It had Richard Harris, Shirley MacLaine, Robert Duvall, Piper Laurie in it. It didn't do well at the box office, you know, just one of those things. But the thing is, because we didn't spend that much money on it, and you could send it to a segmented audience.
I kind of want to ask you, you've seen the industry change quite a bit, clearly, since you started. We have a lot of young listeners who listen to the show who are there's a good segment of them who are like aspiring post PAs or they're college kids or whatever. But we also have a large amount of first assistants and editors who listen to the show. I guess, what are your pearls of wisdom when you look at how Post has changed over the years and maybe where it's going? What is your take on it? What is your analysis? What do you
go to
see?
medical school?
So then you can fix your own stomach ulcers.
The thing is, let me tell you how it's changed. When I started there, it was all film and mag, double system and all this stuff, and I could hire all kinds of people to do conforming. To help when they needed to do a screening or something. They'd come in and I'd hire like 5 people to help get everything together to do the screening, and we would set aside 3, 4, 5 weeks for all of that. So I could give employment to a lot of people for like 5 weeks, and I loved hiring people to do that because I thought 2 things. First was I could help advance their careers, but they would owe me one too, kind of.
Right, yeah.
Not that I went and collected debts, but just I wanted them to kind of remember that somebody gave them a break.
Right, yeah. Sure.
And as we moved to the Avids, they went to Avids first, and then they were outputting like on beta
cams.
Yeah, and oh God, it was awful. And then DTS figured out a way to do, I don't remember exactly what it was. They figured out a way to do these previews in a digital way where the picture was like really, really good. I don't even know how they network anymore. There doesn't seem to be like a training program for anybody. It's literally now it's who you know. You need to network.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And it's not enough to meet people. You have to nurture your relationship with them. So you have to massage them.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
I remember the one thing I remember when you came to speak at our temple thing was I think I gave you my info and you were like, now you have to keep in touch with me. Yeah. Like you really, if you don't, then like you're going to fall out. You're like, you need to keep in touch with me. And then I made a point to keep in touch with you.
I would tell you have to, when you make contact with people, follow up. Always follow up. And then at the end, and there would be questions all the time. And it's not just temple. It was, I would do things at USC. I went and did lectures there. Did I make this announcement when you were there? Did I say, look, if you guys have questions, ask them now? Because
you probably did.
Because people are going to come up to me after this. And if you have a burning question for me, don't come up to me after this is over.
Ask it right now.
Do it now because it might relate to 20 other people in the room.
Right, yeah.
You know?
Probably
and still they wouldn't do it. And they'd come up and they'd ask me, and then I gave my business card out to people and I would say, give me a call or send me an email. Make sure you write Temple in the subject line somewhere. So I know
where you're from,
know what it is. And, if it got to the call me stage, it would be call my office and tell them Temple, because they know that's the key word, Temple, and come in and talk to me, and then there's only, of all the different classes I did, you're still in touch with me. There's 2 other guys who kind of were in touch with me for a while, but one of them left the business. You're the one I hear from the most. Consistently. But that was the thing. They wouldn't follow up. It's not enough to come and meet me and collect business cards. You have to keep up the relationship.
So you would say the importance of networking has only increased, really. I mean, now it's just a who you know business.
Real networking. If you look at a communication model, it requires feedback, okay? Signal goes out, feedback comes back. And then there's noise that surrounds it, right? You've had that class.
There's the boring chit chat. There's the like, how's your dog? How's your kids? Like, not even the like, what shows are you on?
I always made it a point when I was at industry events, like ACE Awards and stuff like that. Sure. I always made it a point to find something else to talk to everybody about.
That wasn't about work. That wasn't shop talk.
Yeah. Are you still looking for a house? Yeah. I heard you guys are looking for a house. You still looking for a house? Is
Sally still playing baseball? Whatever. Sure.
What keeps you up at night? There's a question that's something that I learned from George W. Bush. He would meet world leaders.
And he'd ask, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps you up at night? And in the case of China, it was, I've got 1 billion people to feed. And that's a way to open up a dialogue where it's mutually beneficial. Maybe I can help you with that. I'm not saying specifically say what keeps you up at night, but find something. How can I help you without saying, how can I help you? Because it's like, I've got all the help I need. I don't need you. I don't need, that sort of thing. And nobody will be that rude, I don't think.
What kind of worries you about where the industry is heading? And also what gives you hope? If at all, if you're worried
what gives me hope is that eventually everything comes back to LA. Eventually everybody figures out that the crews really are not that good in Texas. And the crews are really not that good in New Mexico. And they're getting better. But, the movie Rust, that doesn't happen in LA.
Yep.
Somebody doesn't get shot with, and then the New Mexico legislature is acting like we are a bunch of irresponsible shitheads because we allowed this to happen. When Alec Baldwin and maybe the DP and maybe the director were the only people that weren't from New Mexico. Yep. Granted, Alec Baldwin's one to pull the trigger, but this shit doesn't happen in L.A.
Yeah.
Brandon. If
you're on a proper union set, it's really
Brandon
difficult for all
Lee
that stuff to happen.
was killed in North Carolina.
Yes.
Not in L.A. Yep. Now, people on crews have been killed in L.A., but it hasn't been an actor shot by a gun. And it's usually like the bodyguard, someone was killed on that because he was operating a scissor lift remotely and didn't realize that the one remote control was operating both. And he crushed himself in between them. And it wasn't actually at the studio. It was we were still responsible, but it was at a warehouse that they turned into a studio because they wanted to keep Whitney Houston safe because she was big and, you have to, you couldn't hire Paul McCartney and expect to keep it quiet and then expect people not to show up.
So that's what gives you hope.
It gives me hope that everybody eventually realizes that LA is the best place to be. They have great crews in New York, great crews in London. Chicago's only maybe 3 crews deep, I think, if you're the 4th project.
Good luck.
Yeah.
And you'll find people that can do it. It's just going to take longer because there is a learning curve.
Or you have to send people from LA out to those places.
Well, that's the thing too. And you don't want to do that because you want to, the whole tax thing is, the purpose of the tax incentive is to teach these people how to do the jobs. I would imagine New Orleans probably has decent crews, but I don't know how deep those crews are.
Right, yeah.
Ultimately, I don't really know what's going to happen. But what gives me hope is that I've been through this shit before. When the strikes were happening, everybody was asking me, when are these strikes going to end, and all this stuff. And I would tell them, it's going to end in the fall. It's going to end in the fall. I've been through SAG and Writers Guild strikes many times. In the 50 years that I've been here, we've had this. They always end in the fall.
So then what?
So what worries me is that they won't come back.
Okay.
That worries me. We spend too much time chasing tax deals instead of doing the movies. I'm not trying to say anything negative about Tom Cruise because I really like Tom Cruise. He's a good guy. We have a lot of experience with him, not so much on movies we've done with him, but we did a lot of movies with Nicole when they were married. And he he was always curious about what was going on, and he's a cheerleader. He's out there cheerleading F1. I don't mean to be critical of him, but wouldn't it be nice if Tom said, my next movie is going to be in L.A. because I'm going to sleep in my own bed. So I'm not going to take the $20 million up front against 5% of the gross. because I want to do this in LA, and LA has the best crews in the world. If he said that, if he made a thing and said that, and they made a good movie, doesn't have to be a great movie. If they made a good movie, having said that about the crews in LA being the best and sleeping in my own bed, he will win an Oscar. Doesn't matter how shitty the movie is. John Wayne didn't deserve the Oscar that year, but he was responsible for so many people getting work over the years. He got an Oscar when he was up for it. So I just wish that some of these big name guys would step up, and maybe it'd be nice if he did sleep in his own bed instead of hanging his ass out of an airplane.
Right.
I don't mean to be critical. It's just the humor thing is just my manner, you know?
So we got one more question for you. Do you miss being in the thick of it?
Every day.
Yeah?
Every day, yeah. There's some parts of it I don't miss. I was talking to another exec at Warner Brothers, maybe 3 years ago. I think at the end of the pandemic, and he said, "How are you doing? So do you like being out of all this stuff?" And I said, "Well, I named a particular person. I said, well, I don't miss being bullied by
XYZ.
I don't miss that at all. But, the thing I miss the most is being part of it. Like I would go to premieres and I would see all those people on Hollywood Boulevard, and half of them were people who wished they were in the business.
Right.
And I would be saying to myself, I'm so glad I'm not on that side of the rope. I'm so glad that I'm on this side. I mean, no offense to them, but I remember that.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing that very long when I got to town, but But even so, when I was doing TV at the time, movies were more prestigious. And everybody wished they were doing the movies. And I would go to reunions. They actually were having reunions with the ABC group. And somebody thought about it. I left there 40 years ago, 1985. I left there to go to Lorimar. But I remember at one of them, it was like I was talking to people and I could remember all these people because I was senior vice president at Warner Brothers, and all these people who were so deferential to me, who just treated me like shit when I worked there. And I never forgot that. It's like, you know what Irish Alzheimer's is?
No.
You forget everything except a grudge.
That's a great way to end. I think it's a great way to end this podcast.
We have our final sips and spews.
We got to go into a splice and spew.
Splice and spew.
Anything at all. Me and Michael can go first to give you some time to maybe think or kind of get a gauge of what we're kind of doing. Do you want to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
I can go first.
We're going to let Michael go first.
Bad news for the listeners out there. Tefilio and Bill, I have been raving about each season of Lost for the last few weeks because I've been rewatching Lost. But Leanne has decided to watch Lost, so now I have to pause because I will be spoiling Lost for Leanne. So instead, I
never saw it. So
you never watched Lost?
No.
You'd be spoiling it for him too.
No. Network television.
Yeah. It doesn't do network television.
I don't do that. I had to sit on those stages and in those control rooms.
That's fair.
For so long, and it's so predictable to me now. My brother watches Blue Blood, and he puts it on. He just thinks it's the most wonderful show, and I'll sit there and I say they're going to have a commercial in about 30 seconds, and here comes
you're not wrong.
Thing
you're
for
not
preparation
wrong.
age.
You're not wrong. I'm gonna rant about a little stupid toy called a Labubu. I don't know if you know what this toy is, Bill. My girlfriend wanted a Labubu for her birthday, and it's this. It's very cute. I shouldn't call it stupid because she'll listen to this and get mad that I've called it stupid. It's this little tiny gremlin doll. Okay, it's about yay big, and these things cause people to go in an actual murder frenzy. These little toys cause people to lose their mind. The Century City in the mall, they have to ban people because people would line up outside of the store where they sell these Labubus at 4 p.m. the day prior to wait through the night to buy one of these things. The ravenous hunger around getting one of these toys has reached a fever pitch where these things retail for $25.99. I had to buy it from a reseller for $70.
Why do you want it?
This is what my girlfriend wanted for her birthday. She wanted a Labubu.
But what does it do?
Nothing. It's a keychain. It's a keychain. People go nutty for one of these things. So not just, listen, the cost is whatever.
I thought possession of it. I thought you were going to go with possession of it causes people to commit murder.
No.
Because I was going to ask where I could buy a dozen.
I'm sorry. Trying to possess one of these things causes people to murder each other.
God. Oh my God.
I don't really care necessarily about the cost. I'm happy to spend $70 for a birthday. It's finding one of these damn things and making sure that they're not fake is a whole ordeal in itself that took me like hours of my day in order to find a verified Labubu reseller in Los Angeles who would not sell me as my girlfriend calls it, a Lafufu, which is a fake Labubu. It was very adamant that I had to find and acquire real Labubu.
And she really wants this.
It's so hard to express because I don't get it. People want these so badly. I
don't get it either.
So badly people want these things. So anyway, I got her the Labubu, but my rant is Labubu access has to clearly be greatly increased because it's causing problems in my life. I'm not gonna say my rant is Labubus because listen, these bring people joy. It's fine. I'm glad it brings you joy. It's getting access to these damn things. That is my rant. My spew.
Oh wait, my splice is going to be about Lost season 1.
Oh my God, really?
No, it's
Leanne, I got so excited.
We already got Michael's Lost season 1 spew, splice. We will talk off mic about Lost. I am not going to repeat everything that Michael said. So I'm going to do another.
I got so excited.
I'm going to do another splice. My splice is at actually it was last week. I went to the Angels game for the first time. I've never been to the Angels stadium. So this was like, it was my friend's birthday. She wanted to go because there were fireworks. And they did a Christmas in June theme. Now, you think bizarre, right? So you think, like Christmas, they probably put a few like wreaths up and whatever. They went all out. Like, there was a tree. There were carolers who were dressed up. I was like, my God, they're got to be so hot. Like, they were full on dressed up like 18th century carolers. You went into the stadium. Yes, it was all like wreaths everywhere and everything. In between innings, they played Christmas music, like pop Christmas music. There was a live band that was also playing Christmas music. Every time you saw the players on the Jumbotron when they were being introduced, they photoshopped elf hats and Santa hats. And then they also photoshopped their faces in like Christmas movies like Elf or like Christmas Chronicles, like a poster of their photoshopped face in the main character. And then they had a season's greeting sign in like kind of the back of the field. And at the end, there was a fireworks show, which is really why my friend wanted to go. And the fireworks were, they exploded, I guess, to like these the Christmas songs.
To the Christmas songs?
Beats. So there was like Santa Claus is coming to town. There was like Carol the Bell. It was like crazy. My friend and I were just like, they went so much harder than I thought that they ever would for a Christmas in June too, not like Christmas in July. It's like Christmas in June, and it was so hot. It just none of it felt right. None of it felt right.
I used to live next to the Angels Stadium.
Yeah,
I lived there for like a year and a half. And because of that, I will never go to an Angels game because I hate them so much. Just living next to it.
Gosh.
I could never get home, and people would park in my parking spot just to go to. It just caused me so much rage and anger. Not to mention, it's in goddamn Anaheim, and they call themselves the Los Angeles Angels when Anaheim Angels is right there, and it's alliteration.
So do you have
anything you want to rant?
I don't have a rant, but I want to say that I really enjoyed the last couple of weeks going to the movies because we've had some really good stuff coming out.
Yeah.
F1 I thought was great. Ballerina I thought was great. Jurassic I saw. It wasn't great, but it was good. I liked it more than my wife did.
My boy Gareth.
Because I haven't seen all of them. I saw
the Chris Pratt one.
Saw the original one. I don't know. I saw the Dallas Bryce Howard one.
Yes, Jurassic World.
Oh, yes, that was Jurassic World.
And I didn't have a whole lot. I don't revere that stuff. I don't have a whole lot. I'm not a Star Wars fan, which, if you say that out loud up at Skywalker Ranch, which I've done. I mean, what else came out?
28 years later?
I haven't seen that, but I do want to see that. I like Danny Boyle, and apparently a lot of it was shot with
iPhones.
They're
all
I've
shot
seen
with
the
iPhones.
rigs.
Yeah.
I've seen the rigs. I mean, it's hardly like an iPhone.
No, they remove the lens from the iPhone and install a new lens onto it to make it
so
work.
that intrigues me. I don't care for post-apocalyptic movies.
Sure.
It's not my thing. But I like Danny a lot.
And then How to Train Your Dragon has also been doing really well.
That was good. I took my wife. I saw that twice. I took her to see it the second time that I saw it, and she was like, "Oh, I don't want to see that. I've seen the cartoon." And I said, "No, I think you're going to like this." You know, and my wife likes cats, so it's like, and the
Toothless is like a big cat.
The dragons are like cats.
Yeah.
You know,
They're modeled after cats. I mean, they're animated after
I'm
cats.
sure they are.
Like,
yeah. But what else have we had? I mean, I've been really.
Materialists?
Mission Impossible, I like. No, I didn't see that. I read the description and I wasn't sure that was something I wanted to see on a big screen. You know,
Elio, the new Pixar film as well. Elio.
I didn't see that. I got caught up in the line of kids that invaded the theater lobby when I was going to see something else. What else was out at the same time? Probably Ballerina, I would guess.
Maybe.
There's Phoenician Scheme and then Final Destination.
Phoenician Scene I liked. It didn't work for me the second time around. The first time around it was a hoot. And then I thought I really want to see this again. I'm sure there's stuff I missed. I went the second time and it fell flat for me.
Okay, yeah.
But it sounds like a solid rave for this summer's slate of movies.
Yes.
Want to take us out, Leanne?
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sips and Clips. You can catch us on our Instagram at Sips and Clips Pod. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And you keep on sipping and we'll keep on clipping. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Sips and Clips is a podcast produced by Leanne McFalls and Michael Schusterman. Graphic by Max Schulman. Sound mixing by Cassidy Legan. Sound editing by Zach Griffin. Follow us on Instagram at Sips and Clips Pod. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.